Okay, well, as long as we identify with our physical, ego-driven self, we will be limited. If we begin to identify more with our infinite, divine consciousness, which is dwelling within us, our true self, self with a capital S, when we start to identify more with that, we begin to realize that the possibilities are infinite. And we can manifest in a much more effortless way when we're tapping into our higher self. One of the things that I had to learn along my metaphysical journey is that my thoughts are not coming from my brain. And I think this is one of the biggest obstacles that people have. They think they have a brain at the top of their head, and that brain is what's manufacturing all their thoughts. Well, the brain is really almost like a radio tower. It receives and it sends thoughts. And now we're beginning to understand too that the heart has a brain in it. So, our whole body can feel and feel emotion. And it's important for us to understand that we can receive thoughts from the universe. So we are infinite beings. And if we really want to live like geniuses, and we're all geniuses, but it's untapped in most of us because we've been programmed into believing we're limited. A genius is just someone who understands or allows their consciousness to pick up on whatever it is they're interested in and expand on it. And that's what a genius does. They're a receiver. And many very creative people will be the first to tell you that they can't really take credit for the music they wrote or the book they wrote because it just kind of flowed through them. And what they were doing is receiving these thoughts that are constantly being transmitted through us. So if you want to get rid of your sense of limitation, open yourself up to the realization that your brain is really like a radio tower, receiving and sending thoughts. And that's one of the biggest things about metaphysical studies that's very, very interesting, when you begin to understand that thoughts are things and thoughts create things. Now, even psychic ability is still a very controversial thing with a lot of people. Many people still don't really believe that psychic ability is real. Well, I've proven to myself since I was 21 years old, and I learned how to read minds, that yes, it is real. We do transmit, and we do pick up thoughts from other people. It's not like we're going around just reading everybody's thoughts all the time. We do have certain privacy, but if you're a sensitive person, you can definitely send and receive thoughts from other human beings. But it's important for us to understand that genius and tapping into thought and consciousness and intelligence is something that we can explore. And we're really just beginning to understand so many things about the human mind now. It's still been a big mystery to scientists, to doctors. There's a lot more coming out about near-death experiences and other dimensions. If you study quantum physics, they've kind of validated that, yes, there are these other dimensions that we can't see or touch yet, but they know they're there. And it's all very interesting. But how it relates to us is that we can actually meditate and realize that we are infinite beings. And we can bring into our experience amazing things if we so choose. Okay, a lot of people like to say, okay, if affirmations work, I'm just going to say I have $1 million or $10 million, whatever they want, and it'll happen. Well, it's more than that, in that you have to really be able to feel whatever that thing is that you desire. And if it's too much of a stretch for you to go to 1 million or 10 million, it's not going to happen. So what you want to do is build on wherever you are now to where you want to be, slowly, in increments. It doesn't have to be that slow, but you taking increments makes it a lot easier. For instance, let's say you have a job and you're making $40,000 and that's not enough. You want something more, but you want to do something you love. First, you have to figure out what you want to do, and then, do your research and figure out what you have to do to put yourself in that position, and treat it like a really fun, exciting project. And things will just start to show up. If you are connected to your source energy, if you need to go back to school, if you need money to start a business, if you need to meet certain kinds of people or be in a certain, it will just unfold. As long as your desire is there and it's pure and it's a real desire that is going to be a good thing for you and for everybody else that might be involved in it. That's what makes it happen. And it's almost like you'll never know how it will happen, but you'll just start to see things, and things will show up in your life that are the next step. But you have to have a clear vision of where you're going. There's so many examples of people that said they lived on the street and now they're famous metaphysical teachers because they learned the secret of going within, feeling like you are the person you want to become. And we all have an ideal of who we would like to be, whether we know it or not. There is an ideal person living within every single one of us. And the more you focus on that ideal you and allow that person to emerge and become more of who you are than who you don't want to be, the more you're striving toward that, and things will show up in your life that will point you in that direction, and you'll just meet people along the way that will help you and nurture it, and everything will work out. And you have to believe, this is where faith comes in, trusting that it will work out. And if you've had that transcendent experience of knowing that God is within you, you'll know that it will eventually work out. There's no doubt in your mind. Well, if you haven't had that experience, but you're watching this video or you're studying metaphysics, you're looking for that experience, and you never know when it's going to happen. You can't predict it. You can't predict when something is going to give you that big aha moment. We've all had small aha moments. Sometimes we have bigger ones than others. But if you've heard that other people have had an experience like that, you know that it's possible. And you know that it's going to happen. You just don't know when it's going to happen. But it will happen. A lot of people have a tendency to judge by appearances. If the economy, the news is bad, they begin to think, oh, it's a bad economy. There's no way I can make money. And it spreads like a disease. It's very contagious. This is what causes depressions, right? It spreads, and it's all psychological. But if you step off of the grid, if you come out and you're separate from that kind of thinking, it doesn't have to affect you. And this has been proven over and over again. There's always upturns and downturns in the economies. And there are always people who know how to make money even in the downturns, right? So you can step out and be separate. You don't have to be affected by negative news, stories that go out about how, this is a time when everyone's struggling. You don't even have to listen to that. There's always a way, and there are always people who rise above, are separate. You don't even have to listen to that kind of programming because it's just all an illusion anyway. Once you get to a place where you understand that you're creating your own dream in your consciousness, and you can make it whatever you want it to be, then you can program prosperity. And you can get to a place, I know fear is a very big deal with people. There are two emotions, love and fear. And fear is a big motivator. Fear keeps us from doing things because we're fearful that if we falls apart, we won't be happy. But when you step out of fear into love, then you realize there's nothing to fear. And even if you lose it all, so what? It doesn't really matter. And that's when you become really fearless. The ultimate is when you completely get rid of your fear of death, because ultimately that's the fear that's behind everything, fear of death. And if you get to the place where you have no fear of death because you know you're eternal and you know there is no death, then you're fearless and you're free and you're able to do things that you weren't able to do before you had that fear. When you had the fear, it frees you. Well, you can be stuck in a vibration, and when you're just getting the same thing over and over and over again, that's because your vibration is at that frequency. Now, it's not that easy to change your vibration, I have to admit. I mean, there have been people that have done studies on this, and they, it's a lot of times our vibration changes when we have a really bad thing happen to us, either a near-death experience, a severe illness, or we lose everything, and then bingo, we bottom out, everything changes. We decide, that's it. I'm going to move in a new direction. And the things that seemed important, like staying in that weird relationship that isn't working, or staying in that job that doesn't really work, when all that is pulled out from under us, we have to make a change. Well, if you're conscious, you can do these things consciously without having to go through the horror of having everything pulled out from under you. And that's why light workers are on the planet telling people that they can make these changes on their own without, going through a disaster. And when you do it that way, it's a lot more pleasant. They're trying to tell people, I've been through a lot, but I'm trying to spare you. So here you go. Here's the manual. So I've really enjoyed making these videos for you, and it's been great to work with you over the past week or so. So I'd like to keep this going, and I think it makes sense for us to be working together. And if you feel the same way, if you like what we've done together so far, then let's keep this going in the Abundance X Factor workshop, where we'll get to interact live and really take attracting abundance into your life to the next level. Simply click the Abundance X Factor link right below this video right now to learn more.